for the kitchen because this is really a great family activity. Get your children involved. Give them things that you feel, if they're old enough to start cutting, you can give them tasks to do, washing vegetables. If they're not able to do that, ask them to color placemats because you really want to have your children involved in the kitchen, because the studies show that children who are involved preparing meals actually eat healthier. They're more likely to finish school and go for higher learning. They do better in school with regards to grades, and there's less risk with regards to other behaviors like dropping out of school and alcohol and drug use. So it's just a nice family activity. And so with regards to preparing a meal, the first thing that you need to do is take a look at your recipe and read through it to see how long is it going to take you to do all of the steps, realizing that a recipe is just a suggestion. When you look at it and you say, oh, well, this recipe has mushrooms and my family doesn't like mushrooms, then you may want to substitute another vegetable in its place. When you're getting ready to make your, start to do your food prep, it's great to bring everything out that you need. Bring out your produce, bring out your spices. And so if you ever take a cooking class, they will talk about mise en place. Everything has its own place on your cutting board. And so you have your cutting board and your knife. And you need to be very careful when there are other people in your kitchen, especially with knives. So you always want to, if you're walking with a knife, keep it at your side. If the knife starts to fall off the counter, do not try and pick it up because you're going to end up slicing and going to the emergency room. And so if you're in the kitchen walking behind someone with either a hot item from the oven or the stove or carrying a knife, you would say hot knife so that people know that you're walking behind them. And so everything is in its place. So when I do my food prep, I have the different bowls. You're going to need the bowl for the vegetable that you're cutting. And then I call this my treasure bowl, so that when I cut pieces of the vegetable, like when we cut the onion, it will go into the treasure, because what I do is I then put all of these treasure pieces in a Ziploc, put it in my freezer, and when that Ziploc is full, I will make my own vegetable broth. So again, quite economical. And so you can, the treasures that you would want to keep are like your onions, the garlic, the skin of the garlic, the carrots, celery, and if you're like me, sometimes, unfortunately, I don't get to use all the vegetables that are in my vegetable bin, and I don't really want to have food wastage. So once a week, I take a look in my vegetable bin to see what do I need to wash, and then put in my Ziploc that I could make broth later on when my bag is full. And the other things that you need, you have your ingredients out, your spices, have some tasting spoons available, because especially as you're preparing and everyone's tolerance for spices are different, or say garlic, you may need to have a family meeting to decide how much garlic cloves to put in a recipe, so that you want to prepare one that is going to be enjoyed by your family. And just to point out that the recipes that we shared, we did choose certain groups of spices. And so what we're also including on this video and with some of the handouts are that which spices seem to go well together. Everyone has their own cultural background, and so your you're an expert at making your own spices pop and your foods pop, but you may want to try something different and try a Mediterranean spice or a French spice. And so we will give you suggestions of which spices pair well together. All right. And with regards to holding a knife, because it is so important, so many people will use their index finger, and it really doesn't add to the stability. What you want to do is hold it tightly. So you want to grasp it on both sides. And what I would suggest, if you have not had a lot of experience in the kitchen, is to try and cut back and forth without the vegetable. Okay, and then the one thing that I wanted to mention before we start showing you how to cut certain things, if you do see that there is garlic in the recipe, I would suggest the very first thing that you do is that you smash the garlic. This one has already been peeled, but if it hadn't been, you can keep the peel on, and you would smash the garlic. If you remember, we started by saying that what can we do with food preparation? You want to check, Andrew? With regards to food preparation, to really bring out its nutritional value. And so garlic happens to have the phytonutrient called allicin, and it needs to be oxidized by smashing it, so that oxidation means that the air circulates and it is converted to allium, and allium is the phytonutrient, meaning food nutrient, that is useful and lowers one's risk of cancer and other diseases. All right, so I know Andrew showed you how to, the easy way of cutting the onion, but I just thought I'd share how the chefs teach you if you ever take a cooking class on how to cut an onion. This method, you need to be quite cautious because you need to use your claw hand, and be careful that you're not going to be slicing into the palm of your hand. So Andrew showed you how to get to half of an onion, and what you're going to do is make slices, 2 slices horizontally through the onion about 2/3 of the way. Okay, so that's how you start. So again, you grip the knife and do it slowly and go 2/3 of the way through. Okay, and then you would change your orientation. Again, that root is so important. It keeps the segments together. And then what you're going to do is now make cuts. And so then you would now slice it using your claw hand. So I guess it is a little bit faster, but you do have to watch and make sure you don't injure your fingers. And then, if you're in the class and you say, well, what do I do with this? They say, well, we just put that in the stock pot, and we've made enough onion, so I'm just gonna put it in the stock pot. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, because I did show you how to smash the garlic, and we've smashed a lot of garlic, but I saved all of the skins because I'm gonna put those skins into my treasure bowl also. Alrighty, and then I wanted to show you a nice handy gadget, because if you've ever taken a cooking class and you've tried to pick up your vegetables this way, that will dull the edge of your knife. And it's so important to keep your knife sharp, because most of the injuries with knives in the kitchen is because the knife is not sharp. So if you're a home cook, I would say once a year is a good time interval to have your knife sharpened. And I haven't checked out the local farmers markets, but usually at farmers markets, you can find someone there who will sharpen your knife. And then I wanted to show you this handy thing to use instead of your knife, how you can just use this to pile up your onions. And if you remember, we're making like 3 or 4 dishes, so that's why we have so many onions. And then I want to show you a nice way of cutting up a pepper, because so many people, when I talk to people about peppers, they say, oh, the seeds go all over the place. And so this is a nice method. The pepper, again, is already washed. And so what you want to do is cut the pepper in quarters, and as you slice, you can hopefully keep those seeds there. And this I would not put in my treasure because the seeds would be bitter. This connective tissue in the pepper is also quite bitter, so I would throw that out. And then you should always use the size knife for the job, so I'll convert to my smaller knife and just remove this. And then, as Andrew had said, you want this to be on a flat surface, because if you try and cut it with the skin side up, it's going to roll, and there's more of a chance of injuring yourself. And so again, you always have your claw. And what's nice with peppers, you can cut them into julienne slices, which are nice for if you're making a nice hummus dip. You can use that as a crudité item for snacking. But I usually always cut these, julienne style is the term, but I always cut these first this way and then dice for your recipe.